Little sage, today let's reflect on something different. Let me ask you a question. Do you work to live, or do you live to work? It sounds simple, but this question carries an existential weight that many avoid facing. It directly confronts the pace, values, and structures that sustain modern life. It's a question that may feel uncomfortable, and perhaps that's precisely why it's necessary. We live in a world where productivity is praised as the highest virtue. Free time is often mistaken for laziness. Success is measured in numbers, titles, and accumulated achievements, even when the cost is life itself. Some spend decades believing that hard work will open the doors to future freedom, a peaceful retirement, and a happiness that is always postponed. But what if that future never comes? What if, in trying to secure tomorrow, we forget to live today? People are exhausted. That's an increasingly visible truth. Anxiety, burnout, depression. These are symptoms of a society that has lost its balance between being and doing. Technology once promised to free us from overwork, but in many cases, it only extended our working hours to a 24/7 cycle. Today, we carry work in our pockets, on our wrists, even into our sleep. We're always on, always available, as if constant connection were a badge of commitment rather than a sign of submission. The body warns us, the mind too. But we've learned to silence those alarms in the name of performance. After all, they say, if you don't work hard, you don't win. But win what, exactly? A race where everyone seems tired and no one really knows where the finish line is. For a long time, the safe path followed a clear script. Study hard, go to college, get a good job, climb the career ladder, acquire things, start a family, and eventually retire. That model shaped generations. It served a historical function, especially in post-war and economic rebuilding periods. But the world has changed, and that script is starting to crumble under new needs and shifting perspectives on life. Young people are beginning to ask themselves whether it's really worth spending 40 years in an office chair waiting for a freedom that might never come. Even financially successful adults feel empty, despite having checked off all the boxes on the traditional success list. The idea of working until you die doesn't convince like it once did. Not because work itself is the enemy, but because we've lost the sense of why we do what we do. The failure of the traditional success model lies precisely in forgetting life in the name of the plan. When the goal becomes accumulation and prestige, the soul gets lost. One expression of a new way of seeing life is digital nomadism, a lifestyle that blends remote work with mobility, allowing the world to become not just your office, but the backdrop for new experiences of being. But digital nomadism isn't just about travel. It's an existential stance. It's the refusal to become rooted in suffocating routines. It's an effort to make work a part of life, not life itself. To trade stability for authenticity, comfort for freedom, routine for discovery. Digital nomadism invites us into fluidity. It challenges the idea that success must be tied to a fixed address, a prestigious title, or an overbooked schedule. It allows work to fit into life, rather than life being forced to fit around work. Of course, this lifestyle isn't free of challenges. Not everyone can or wants to adopt it. But its symbolic value is powerful. It reflects a collective desire to reconnect with life, to reclaim autonomy, to return to the essential. So here's the question. If everything is changing, does work still make sense? The answer is yes. But not just any work. not the kind that erases the self in service of the system, not the kind that alienates, sickens, and turns life into a countdown to the weekend. Work can absolutely be a form of creativity, a channel for contribution, a fertile ground for self-discovery. But for that to happen, work must be reimagined. Work should be a part of life, not its entirety. It should nourish the soul, not drain it. It should make sense in the present, not only as a promise of some future reward. Let's return to the question we started with. Do you work to live or live to work? If that question stirs something in you, that's a good sign. Discomfort is often the first step toward transformation. Maybe it's time to revisit your definitions of success, purpose, and time. Maybe what you're lacking isn't money but courage, the courage to live with more truth. Maybe life is asking for less performance and more presence. The world is changing, and with it, the ways of living, working, and existing are changing too. You can stay on autopilot, moving with the current. Or you can ask yourself, with honesty and bravery, is this life I'm living really mine? Or just the one I was taught to accept? To live fully is an act of resistance in a world that only values productivity. It's saying no to a logic that sacrifices the now for a future that never arrives. It's remembering that you are not a machine, and that time passes whether you're earning a salary or not. Maybe the greatest success is living with soul, working with meaning, having time for what is alive, light and real, breathing slowly, smiling without rush, looking at the sky, listening to those you love, and feeling deep in your chest that you are exactly where you're meant to be, not because the world says so, but because your soul quietly knows it.